People often ask when my marriage started falling apart. They expect me to describe a huge fight or some dramatic betrayal. The truth is, it happened one small insult at a time. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 33 years old, and for 6 years I tried to be the kind of wife who kept everyone happy. I avoided arguments, smiled through criticism, and convinced myself that if I just tried harder, one day my husband's family would finally accept me. They never did. My mother-in-law, Linda, had an opinion about everything I did. If dinner wasn't perfect, she criticized my cooking. If the house wasn't spotless, she questioned whether I was really trying. Even the way I raised our 3-year-old son, Noah, was never good enough. His aunt, Jessica, wasn't much different. Whenever the family gathered, they found a new reason to laugh at me. Sometimes it was my career. Sometimes it was my clothes. Most of the time, it was my parenting. The worst part wasn't what they said. It was that my husband, Daniel, almost never defended me. He always had an excuse. That's just how Mom is. Jessica doesn't mean it. Don't make a big deal out of it. For years, I believed him, until one Saturday afternoon changed everything. Daniel's parents were hosting their annual summer barbecue. The backyard was packed with relatives, children running through the grass, and music playing from a small speaker near the patio. At first, everything seemed normal. I stayed close to Noah, helping him build a little sandcastle in the play area while the adults talked nearby. Then Noah tripped over a toy truck and started crying. Before I could even comfort him, Linda spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "There she goes again," she laughed. "Emma Bobby's that boy over every little thing." Several relatives chuckled. I ignored the comment and picked Noah up. "He just fell," I said calmly. Jessica rolled her eyes. "He's 3, Emma. Let him toughen up." I kissed Noah's forehead and wiped away his tears. "It's okay, sweetheart." Linda shook her head. "No wonder he's so sensitive." Conversation around us suddenly became very quiet. Everyone was listening. I looked toward Daniel. He was standing only a few feet away. He had heard every word. He simply sipped his drink and looked away. That hurt more than the insults themselves. A few minutes later, lunch was served. As everyone gathered around the picnic tables, Linda smiled at me. "You know," she said sweetly, "when Daniel was Noah's age, I never ran to pick him up every time he cried." Jessica laughed. "Maybe that's why Daniel grew up strong." Set my fork down. "Think every parent raises their child differently." Linda's smile disappeared. "You saying I was a bad mother?" "I didn't say that. You implied it." I took a slow breath. "I'm only saying I'm comfortable with the way I parent Noah." Jessica crossed her arms. "Too sensitive, Emma. Nobody can say anything around you." The first time in years, I didn't stay quiet. "Not upset because you have opinions," I said. "I'm upset because you never show me any respect." The entire table fell silent. Everyone looked at Daniel. This was his chance to support his wife. Instead, he sighed. "Emma," his voice carried the same tired tone he always used whenever he wanted me to give in, making this awkward. I stared at him. "So you're okay with them insulting me? They're family." "So am I." He didn't answer. Linda stood up from her chair. "If she can't respect this family, maybe she shouldn't be here." Jessica nodded in agreement. "I think she owes everyone an apology." Looked around the table. No one spoke. No one defended me. Even relatives who knew I had done nothing wrong kept their eyes on their plates. Then Daniel stood. He looked directly at me. "Emma," he said firmly, "just apologize." "Upsetting everyone." "I didn't upset everyone. I defended myself." He folded his arms. "I'm not arguing about this." Neither was I then. He said the sentence that changed my life forever. "Apologize right now, or get out." For a moment, I couldn't believe I'd heard him correctly. I searched his face, hoping he would smile and say he didn't mean it. He didn't. He was serious. I looked down at Noah. He was holding my hand, confused by the silence around us. I smiled gently at him. Then I picked up my purse. Without saying another word, I took my son's hand and walked toward the gate. No one tried to stop us. Not Daniel, not his mother, not anyone. As I buckled Noah into his car seat, tears filled my eyes. He looked at me through the mirror and asked quietly, "Mommy, are you sad?" I forced a smile. "A little." He reached forward and placed his tiny hand on my arm. "It's okay, Mommy." Those 3 words from my little boy gave me more comfort than my husband had in years. When we reached home, I tucked Noah into bed and sat alone in the living room. The house was silent. My phone buzzed several times, messages from Daniel. "Are you coming back?" "Mom is upset." "Just apologize so we can move on." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop. As I searched through old emails, one message caught my attention. It was a job offer from a company in New Zealand, an opportunity I had turned down years earlier because Daniel didn't want to leave his family. I stared at the email for a long time, then for the first time in years. I wondered what my life would look like if I stopped choosing everyone else over myself. I couldn't stop thinking about that old job offer. For years, it had sat quietly in my inbox, a reminder of the life I had almost chosen. Back then, Daniel had asked me to stay. "My family is here," he had said. "We belong here." So I declined the opportunity without hesitation. Looking back, I realized something painful. I had sacrificed my dream for someone who wouldn't even defend me at a family barbecue. The next morning, Daniel came home as if nothing had happened. He placed his keys on the counter and asked, "Are you ready to apologize to my mom?" I looked at him in disbelief. "You still think I'm the one who should apologize?" he sighed. "Emma, you're making this harder than it needs to be." "No, Daniel. You did that when you chose your family's feelings over your wife's." He shook his head and walked away. That was the moment I stopped hoping he would change later that afternoon. I searched for the company's contact information. I didn't expect them to remember me after all these years. Still, I sent a simple email asking if they had any similar positions available. I closed my laptop and tried not to think about it. 2 days later, my phone rang. The hearing manager remembered my application. As it turned out, they were expanding their team and had an opening that matched my experience perfectly. After a long interview, they offered me the position. This time, I didn't ask Daniel for permission. I accepted. Over the next 2 weeks. I planned everything quietly. I renewed our passports. I arranged temporary housing. I enrolled Noah in a preschool near my new workplace. Every evening, I packed one small box after Noah went to sleep. Daniel never noticed. He assumed I was still waiting to apologize. His mother even sent me a message that read, "When you're ready to admit you were wrong, we'll forgive you." Read it once. Then I deleted it. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The night before our flight, I stood in Noah's bedroom watching him sleep. He hugged his favorite stuffed bear so tightly that it made me smile. I whispered to myself, "I'm doing this for you." Then I walked into the kitchen and wrote one final letter to Daniel. I didn't write it out of anger. I wrote it because I wanted him to understand. "Daniel, I loved you enough to leave behind my dreams, but you never loved me enough to protect me from the people who kept hurting me. I'm not leaving because of one argument. I'm leaving because years of disrespect have taught me that my son deserves to grow up seeing kindness, not silence. I hope one day you understand why I had to choose peace." I folded the letter and placed it on the kitchen table beside my wedding ring. Before sunrise, I quietly carried our suitcases to the car. I looked back at the house one last time. It had been my home. Now it was just a place filled with memories I no longer wanted to carry. I buckled Noah into his car seat. "Where are we going, Mommy?" he asked with a sleepy smile. "Somewhere we can have a fresh start," I replied. As the sun began to rise, we drove toward the airport. Behind us, Daniel was still asleep, completely unaware that, by the time he woke up, his wife and son would already be on their way to a new life. When our plane landed in New Zealand, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: peace. It wasn't because all my problems had disappeared. It was because, for the first time, I had chosen myself and my son. The first few months weren't easy. I was adjusting to a new job, a new home, and a new routine. But Noah adapted quickly. He made new friends, laughed more often, and no longer seemed nervous whenever family gatherings were mentioned. One evening, he looked up at me and smiled. "Mommy, you're happy now." His words brought tears to my eyes. He was right. For the first time in years, I really was back home. Daniel finally found the letter I had left on the kitchen table. At first, he was angry. He called and texted repeatedly, but I wasn't ready to talk. Weeks passed. Without me there to smooth over every conflict, he began seeing his family's behavior differently. His mother criticized him the same way she had criticized me. His sister blamed him whenever something went wrong. For the first time, he understood what I had lived with for years. A few months later, Daniel called again. This time, his voice was different. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I should have stood beside you." Listened without interrupting. He continued, "I kept asking you to keep the peace because I was afraid of upsetting my family. I didn't realize I was sacrificing my own marriage." It was the apology I had waited years to hear. But words alone couldn't erase the past. Several months later, Daniel flew to New Zealand. He didn't come to pressure me to return. He came to apologize in person. "I don't expect you to forgive me today," he said. "I just wanted you to know that I finally understand." I looked at him for a long moment. "If anything is going to change," I said, "it starts with respect and clear boundaries." He nodded. "Agree. Over the following months, we attended counseling, rebuilt trust slowly, and made decisions together instead of letting others interfere. Our relationship didn't heal overnight. It healed because both of us were willing to do the work today. Our family looks very different. Daniel no longer allows anyone, including his own relatives, to disrespect me. Noah is growing up in a home where disagreements are handled with kindness instead of silence. Looking back, I don't regret leaving. Leaving wasn't the end of my marriage. It was the wake-up call that saved it. Sometimes, walking away isn't about giving up on someone you love. Sometimes, it's the only way to show them that love without respect can never survive. The end.